and we're in Miami at the Miss Florida beauty pageant. The woman you see on screen is a finalist in the competition, but right after the pageant, she vanishes without a trace. As police launched their investigation, they noticed a photographer who was constantly lurking around the contestants, snapping their pictures. And it turned out, not long before this, another woman had gone missing at the Miami Grand Prix. Detectives were completely stumped because the very same man was spotted there. Only this time, he wasn't a photographer, he was a race car driver. By the time the police went looking for him, he had already skipped town. It was too late. He was gone. And soon, young women from all over the country started disappearing. What came next was one of the largest manhunts in American history. We don't know which way he went at this point. If they don't get him tonight, he could be anywhere by morning. But the entire case was about to change, because one of his victims managed to survive against all odds. This one 16-year-old girl held the key to stopping him. She would essentially come back from the dead, seek her revenge, and ultimately be the one to bring him down. The scene is Tallahassee, Florida, in 1984. A 19-year-old sophomore at Florida State University named Linda is living the quintessential college dream. She had a steady boyfriend, a real passion for her classes, and an absolute love for the ocean waves crashing along the Gulf Coast. For Linda, life felt like one endless, perfect summer. But on March 20th, just a few days shy of her 5-year anniversary with her boyfriend, Linda headed out for a quick trip to the Governor Square Mall, completely unaware that this simple errand was about to take a terrifying turn. This department store would become her last known location, before she disappeared into thin air. 12 hours later, on March 21st, Linda resurfaced, a staggering 40 miles away from the mall, barefoot and visibly shaken. She frantically ran to the front desk of a roadside motel in Bainbridge, Georgia. The sight of her made the night manager freeze in place. Her voice trembling, she pleaded for help. Just moments later, a sheriff's deputy burst into the motel lobby. The only words Linda could manage to say were chilling. "The man kidnapped me and tortured me." The officer immediately radioed for an ambulance, then went straight to the room she had pointed out. The door creaked open, revealing a gruesome scene. Bloodstains on the carpet, on the walls, and shredded pieces of duct tape scattered across the floor. He instantly radioed for backup and requested a forensics team. It was clear something violent and deeply disturbing had happened in that room. In the meantime, Linda was rushed to Memorial Hospital in Georgia, where despite her horrific injuries, she was determined not to stay silent. News of her incredible survival traveled fast through police stations all over the state, finally reaching a pair of officers down in Miami, nearly 500 miles away. When Detective Hamlin and his partner read the suspect's description in the police reports, a cold chill ran down their spines. The report described him as tall, well-dressed, with a slight accent and a neatly trimmed beard and mustache. It sounded all too familiar. The two officers immediately got on a plane to meet with Linda in person in Georgia. If their gut feeling was correct, this case was about to break wide open. At the hospital in Georgia, the officers listened intently as Linda recounted her ordeal. He approached me inside the store and asked if I was interested in being a model, and I told him no. I explained that I had a boyfriend, and he wouldn't be very happy about that. Plus, I just wasn't interested in modeling. But then he followed me out to my car, and that's when everything started to happen, and that's when I started to get scared. I think he sucker punched me right in the solar plexus, because the next thing I knew, I woke up in his car. This was still the early era of forensic science, meaning her first-hand testimony might be the only thing they had to generate a new lead, meet a number of women. Back in the 1980s, videotapes like this were a popular dating service. But what nobody knew was that this man was actually a serial killer. They have that little chain lock on the door. But I didn't get to it in time, and then we struggled for what felt like an eternity. He struck me over the head. I just went limp, and he was on top of me, so I played like he'd actually knocked me out cold. I waited for just a second, then jammed my fingers right into his eyes and bolted for the bathroom, where I pretended to be gone. I finally opened the door, and he was gone. Her quick thinking leaves the officers impressed. If their hunch is right, the man who abducted her is exceptionally violent and dangerous, and he likely has a long list of victims who came before her. Carefully, they lay out a series of photos and show them to Linda. Without a moment's hesitation, she identifies one of the men. She doesn't know his full name, but somehow, the detectives do. She identified him right away. She picked him out of the photographs, no question. Christopher Wilder. He's the man they've been hunting for several weeks. And now, He's crossed state lines with Linda. Detective Hanlon knows it's time to get the FBI involved. The case was now linked to 23-year-old Elizabeth Kenyon, a Miss Florida finalist, who had vanished without a trace. Wilder had been dating the young woman around the time she disappeared, and was conveniently nowhere in sight when detectives wanted to bring him in for questioning. But Elizabeth wasn't the first. A week before her disappearance, 20-year-old Rosario Gonzalez had also been reported missing from the Miami Grand Prix. Different towns, different states, but they all share the same disturbing pattern. Cheryl Bonaventure was an aspiring model. She vanished from a shopping center in Mesa, Colorado. His latest presumed victim, a 21-year-old Oklahoma woman whose body was later discovered in Kansas. They discovered the body the day after a woman named Suzanne disappeared. Las Vegas now becomes the 7th city in this trail of abductions. 17-year-old Michelle Kaufman of nearby Boulder City has now been missing for 3 days, an investigator recalled. When you'd get the call that they'd found somebody, my God, I knew damn well it was Wilder. It seemed wherever he went, someone ended up dead. He was ending a life every 2 or 3 days, and he was deliberately stopping his travels to do it. It's now April 4th, 1984. 2 weeks after Linda's abduction and a month since Wilder landed on the police's radar, trailing him from the Miami Grand Prix across the nation. A 16-year-old girl named Tina is walking through a mall in Torrance, California, determined to land a summer job. Later that very same day, a man approaches her and starts a conversation, a race Christopher Wilder himself had competed in. Back at the hospital, investigators get more information from Linda. New reports also begin to flood in about missing young women. She's in his car, and the two of them vanish. Unbeknownst to her, Christopher Wilder has just locked onto his next victim. April 5th, the next day. Carol, Tina's mom, contacts the police and files a missing persons report for her daughter. She explains that Tina never came home from school, and she hasn't heard from her all night. The worried mother also informs them that Tina had recently been having some boyfriend troubles, and because of this, police in California don't immediately grasp the severity of her disappearance, writing it off as a simple teenage argument. But Tina's situation is, in fact, extremely dire. 200 miles away from her mom, in a motel room heavy with the tension of what just occurred, the teenager stares blankly at the ceiling, unable to move. The man from the mall sleeps beside her, his chilling threats replaying in her mind. I've killed before, and I won't hesitate to kill you if you don't do exactly what I say. When the sun finally rises, Wilder leads her back to his car, blindfolding her. Even without her sight, she knows his gun and knife are well within his reach. After terrifying hours of silence and dread on the road, Tina feels the car slow down and come to a stop. He selected a new motel to hole up in for the night. The day Tina disappeared, she had very long hair. But that night at the motel, Wilder stands beside her with a pair of scissors. Without any warning, he cuts the first lock of hair off to her chin. Passers-by notice that they don't seem to know each other, but the conversation looks professional and friendly. They're then seen walking into the parking lot, and just seconds later, most likely this man wants to keep her alive. A strange routine starts for Tina. The pair drive all day long until there's no more sunlight. Only stopping occasionally for gas and food, at small drive-in restaurants Tina looks for any opportunity. A bathroom window, a scrap of paper to leave a note. But Wilder is always watching. Her hope for escape slowly disappears to nothing. She's now been missing for 6 terrifying days. However, on day 7, April 10th, the pair arrived in Gary, Indiana, thousands of miles away from Tina's home in California. Wilder turns to her and forces her to do the unthinkable if she doesn't help him find a new victim. She won't live to see another day. Tina fearfully walks through the local mall, keeping Wilder in the corner of her eye. She can't help but think about what she could possibly do to help the next girl. Tina notices Wilder is fixated on one person, seemingly around the same age as herself. He then looks at Tina, nodding to her as an order. Tina complies and goes up to introduce herself. The girl reciprocates. Her name is Dawn. I do know I came out of like applying, and I was approached by a girl. She told me, to say hi, that she's beautiful. Would she be interested in becoming a model? Let me introduce you to him as to what I said to her. Tina pretends to talk about a local beauty competition with Wilder as a photographer. Dawn seems excited and follows them outside. Suddenly, Wilder violently pushes Dawn into his car, and they quickly speed away as they drive. Wilder completely drops his charismatic sweet-talker persona and immediately threatens Dawn, warning her just like Tina that he's killed before. If she doesn't behave, he'll kill her too. As night falls, Wilder stops the car at a motel in Ohio. When the group enters the room, he immediately breaks the bathroom lock. To prevent the girls from escaping, he then tells Tina to go take a bath, leaving Dawn alone in the bedroom with him. During that time, I wasn't a human to him. I wasn't a person to him at all. From under the bathroom door, Tina can see lights flickering erratically. She immediately knows what the man is doing to Dawn, the same torment he's inflicted on her over the last 7 days. The next morning, the three get back in the car and drive eastward at some point. Wilder gets out, and Tina finds herself alone with Dawn. There is a part of me that had awareness that she wasn't voluntarily, and maybe initially with him I did say, like, how are we gonna get? Like, let's get out of this. Like, how are we gonna get out of this? I thought that maybe we can get through this together. But that didn't happen. It's now April 12th. The group is at a motel in Victor, New York, and all of a sudden on the TV, my mother shows up. I'm like, oh my God, there's my mom. And if this guy does have her, so help me, God, you better not cross my path. Tina is shocked to see her own mom on TV. The teenager watches as her mother threatens the man, who's sitting next to her. Her words have a powerful effect. Tina not only knows people are looking for her, but her mom's strength and courage change everything. She isn't alone after all. However, her mom's TV appearance has a completely opposite effect on Wilder. He frantically gathers his stuff, hurrying Tina and Dawn. He knows the cops and families of his victims are closing in on him, and he won't go down without a fight back at the station. Law enforcement is scrambling to connect the dots with the growing pile of evidence, racing against the clock. Trying to track Christopher Wilder is like chasing a ghost. He's never in one place long enough for them to get a fix on him, slipping across state lines faster than they can keep up, causing jurisdictional nightmares and communication breakdowns. At this point, after more than a month of dead ends, the FBI decides to make a bold play. They're going to release a video of Wilder himself. Now, the public can see and hear him for themselves, his voice, his mannerisms, and finally grasp the true danger hiding beneath that charming facade. Okay, name is Chris Wilder. Been in Florida approximately 11 years. Originally from Sydney, Australia. The footage of Wilder sends a shockwave through the nation. It's a bone-chilling look at a monster hiding right out in the open. I'd like to social date models. I have what I call a need to meet. I am single, have not been married before, and, in the same token, I would like to see a family one day, and I would like a family of my own. It turns out, this so-called photographer is also a suspect in a string of violent crimes that took place all the way back in Australia. His glamorous persona as a race car driver and fashion photographer was the perfect cover for luring unsuspecting young women into his trap. With public outrage mounting, and Tina's mom helping lead the charge, the police start closing in on Wilder. Meanwhile, Wilder is barreling down the highway with Tina and Dawn held captive in the back seat. In under an hour, he pulls the car over near the Finger Lakes, a remote spot in upstate New York. Wilder turns to Dawn and barks at her to get out of the car. He then forces her deep into the woods when, without warning, the man lunges, his hands immediately clamping around her throat. As Dawn's vision begins to tunnel, she fights for her life with every last ounce of strength. They both crash to the ground. Dawn refuses to give up, but then she spots a glint of metal in Wilder's hand. He's got a knife. Lying on the ground, bleeding profusely. All Dawn can do is watch as he calmly stands up and walks away, leaving her clinging to life by a thread. Dawn knows he could return at any second to finish the job. She has to move if she wants to survive. The second he's out of sight, she struggles to her feet and makes a desperate run for her life. So I remember getting over, to a tree, and I believe this was my God moment of the lights and the sunlight, and just this feeling of some strength and power. I didn't know what my injuries were. I did know that I could see it, and thought it was bad. I didn't have a shirt on, but I had pants on, and so I took my pants off and tied them around my chest. I am, fuzzy, dizzy, and I make my way to the road. I saw a truck, a delivery truck, and then it drove me to the hospital. Once at the hospital, medical staff worked to treat her extensive injuries. Incredibly, the blade had somehow missed her heart. Police immediately begin questioning Dawn, trying to get every possible detail about her kidnapper. Despite her severe injuries and blood loss, she gives them her captor's name, the location she was taken from, and the name of the other captive, Tina. Back in the car, when Wilder returns without Dawn, Tina can only assume she's been murdered. But hours later, a report comes over the car radio that a teenager has been found alive. I would like to report that this morning, about 9:30 or 10 o'clock, a 16-year-old female was located in a field in rural Yates County. The incident this morning, we feel, may have a bearing upon Wilder's whereabouts in this area, and we don't know which way he went at this point, and we really need some assistance in locating the vehicle. What active role did the woman play? As far as I know, the woman participated in the abduction, and that is our information. Tina has no clue that the court of public opinion has already turned viciously against her. In the initial days of her kidnapping, she was seen for what she was, a victim. But now, with Dawn's incredible survival and her harrowing account, the media has twisted the story, painting Tina as an accomplice. According to the FBI today, Christopher Wilder, wanted for a series of murders and sexual assaults, appears to be on a cross-country crime spree, now, with the help of a young woman. Police were eyeing Tina Marie Reese as a possible accomplice, but her testimony proved to be a major game-changer for the FBI, finally giving them a clear direction on Wilder's route and the car he was driving. For the first time, they were one step ahead of him, and Wilder was starting to panic. He tore into the parking lot of the Eastview Mall, still in New York. Normally, this was his preferred hunting ground, but now he was desperate and rushed. From across the lot, he zeroed in on 33-year-old mother Beth Dodge in her vehicle, a golden Pontiac Firebird. At gunpoint, Wilder forced Beth into his car, ordering Tina to follow close behind in the Firebird. After a short drive, they pulled over in a secluded area. The second she stepped out of the car with him, he commanded her to walk forward, and then he shot her cold, right in the back, a point-blank execution. 33-year-old Beth Dodge of upstate New York was murdered. Her body was later discovered by two truck drivers alongside a highway. FBI agents scrambled through the night, working from a command center to figure out how to stop one of the country's 10 most wanted fugitives. He had killed her just for her car. An act so cold and impulsive it seemed out of character even for him. For Tina, the terror intensified, leaving her to wonder, when am I next? At this point, Tina had been held captive for 9 days, and sadly, it wasn't her first time dealing with violent men. Her childhood had been hard. Her mother struggled with addiction, and Tina ended up living with her grandmother. She had learned the rules of survival a long, long time ago. As Tina recalled, when I was a little girl, I just watched and learned from what was happening around me at such a young age. Whether it was drugs or the abuse, I was exposed to so much, so many sick individuals. A few of my own family members did unspeakable things to me, over and over. It lasted until I was about 7 years old, starting when I was 3. By the time I hit 16, I felt like I had already lived a full life. So absorbing this kind of brutality, this feeling of being controlled, came almost naturally. Still, she never could have predicted Wilder's next move after all the violence she'd endured. After everything he'd put her through, he suddenly announced he was dropping her off at the Boston airport. Tina was in disbelief. After witnessing so much, it made no sense. Why would he just let her go? After he shot Beth Dodge, we were just driving towards the Canadian border, and something in Wilder just shifted. He put his arm on the console and said, I'm going to take you to the Boston airport and let you go. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, don't believe this for a second. This has to be some kind of trick. Despite law enforcement roadblocks on every major highway, Wilder expertly weaved around them, and the pair arrived at the airport without incident. There, he bought her a one-way ticket to Los Angeles. Shockingly, not a single person recognized them. Tina kept her head down, sensing Wilder was on edge, both panicked and reckless. She knew the killer could change his mind in a heartbeat. Tina was one wrong move away from either remaining his captive forever or becoming his next murder victim. The air was thick with fear. He told her, "Now, give me your ID. You pay for the ticket." Then he added, "Here's some cash. You're gonna need this. Take this $1,000. But then, just like that, he turned on his heel and walked away, leaving her to board the plane by herself. And I was still afraid," Tina said. "I was constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering where he was. I was so conditioned to being controlled that I felt completely lost. Like, what am I supposed to do now?" It wasn't until that plane was actually in the air that I knew for certain I was really free of him. The date was now April 13th. Soon after landing in L.A., a dazed Tina rushed to the police station. Finally free, she now carried the responsibility of exposing Wilder to the world. She had to be the one to force him to face justice. Wilder's violent spree had to be stopped before he could hurt anyone else. "My father was never in my life," Tina explained, "and all of a sudden he shows up with the top criminal lawyer in the state of California at the time. A criminal lawyer? Was she being charged with a crime? The situation was complicated by other jurisdictions, the places where Dawn and Beth Dodge were from. They were adamant that Tina was Wilder's willing accomplice, and they were building a case against her. Meanwhile, Miami detectives hoped to get answers from 16-year-old Tina Marie Risico. After all, she had spent more than a week traveling with Wilder. One investigator noted, "I don't know if she's going to be able to tell us anything, but I couldn't rest easy until I had the opportunity to speak with her." With the Firebird now a national bolo and Tina in protective custody, law enforcement across the country was on high alert. "We believe he's driving a highly distinctive vehicle, a metallic gold 1982 Pontiac Firebird." It was then, in the sleepy town of Colebrook, New Hampshire, that a call came in about a flashy car spotted by a pair of state troopers. They quickly confirmed it was the golden Pontiac Firebird. The two state troopers approached the vehicle with extreme caution. If their intel was correct, the man behind the wheel was a serial killer, and he was armed and dangerous. As the troopers moved in, they saw the driver reach for something. Shots rang out, and one trooper went down. In the ensuing chaos, Wilder made his final, desperate move, choosing to meet his end on his own terms, rather than face justice. When the smoke cleared, he was found lifeless behind the wheel. The nationwide manhunt had finally come to an end. It had been 47 long days since the first victim vanished, but Wilder's reign of terror was over. During his spree, he had abducted 12 young women, 8 of whom were murdered, leaving countless families shattered in his wake. I remember them saying, it's okay, he's gone. And I just thought, is he really dead? Is it actually true? Can you recall what went through your mind when you heard he was dead? Relief. The only thing that went through my mind was relief, just relief. I can't live my life playing the what-if game, but if he were still alive today, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. Just hours after Wilder's death, a potential accomplice surfaced, a teenage girl who walked right into the police headquarters in Torrance, California. She was the same young woman who had been seen with Wilder recently in New York. But while Linda and Donna were being hailed as heroes, Tina's story was met with suspicion. The public and the media struggled to see her as a victim, because her ordeal seemed so starkly different from the others. Through all of this, I was just a kid. I was a minor, and the way the media exploited me, plastering my name everywhere, they handled it completely wrong from the very beginning. While Linda and Donna were celebrated for their courage, Tina's story was met with a wall of doubt. The public didn't rally around her. Instead, they cross-examined her story, choosing suspicion over compassion, even though she had survived the very same monster. That's when Torrance Police Captain Jim Pop stepped in, calling a press conference to set the record straight. "You have a girl here who was kidnapped, who, according to Dawn Lord, was present when another woman was shot, and only then came to the police. How do you explain that?" Well, it's easy to be an armchair quarterback when you haven't lived through that kind of ordeal. And second, the language you're using is incredibly loaded and critical. The word luring was never used in our official investigation. It is the firm opinion of the Torrance investigators that Tina Marie Risico was a victim. Throughout the entire 9 days of terror that ended only with her safe return to Torrance, with Captain Jim Pop publicly clearing her name, Tina could finally begin to move forward, though healing from the court of public opinion would take time. I have 2 regrets: getting in that car and taking Dawn with me. It was a choice. It wasn't my choice, but it was one that was made, and I have to live with that. Every single word I said to those other women. Why didn't I just leave? Why didn't I run? Why didn't I just drive the car away? Why didn't I do something else? And I say, what would you have done? This is what I did, and I'm here today to talk about it. I must have done something right. I think I did. You tell me what you would have done in my shoes. I hope that when this story comes out, someone can find strength in my side of it, in my truth. I really hope they can, take something from it and walk away feeling inspired. Don't take crap from anyone. Only you get to decide who you are. At its core, this is a story about survival. I believe she was a victim who did what she felt she had to do to survive. It was about staying alive. A fundamental survival instinct that's in all of us. Today, she has found love, and with it, the freedom to finally be herself. Meanwhile, Lyndon recognizes just how fortunate she was. She was the first to break free from Wilder's terrifying control, and because of her courage, the police finally understood the true extent of his danger. Her 12-hour ordeal changed her life forever, but she refused to let it define her. I learned more and more about the girls who never got a chance, and I decided that, in many ways, I was now living for them, that I had to make sure I did something that mattered. Now a mother, Dawn understands that time is a powerful part of the healing process. Her strength and determination carried her through an unimaginable ordeal and continue to shape the woman she is today. I have 2 beautiful children, and they're who I live for. We share a lot of laughs and have a lot of fun, and, some days are tough, and other days are amazing. It's all part of this journey. And I don't think that time heals all wounds, but time certainly helps you get to the point where you can sit here today. Each woman's survival set off the chain reaction that ultimately put an end to the beauty queen killer's reign of terror. In the end, it wasn't luck that stopped him. It was the women who refused to let him win. They refused to be broken. And through their resilience, justice finally prevailed.